A simple woman, dressed in casual clothes, was being escorted out of an exclusive boutique by a manager in a sharp, tailored suit. Soft whispers spread through the air as other customers eyed the scene with curiosity. "People like you don't belong here," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. She walked away with quiet dignity, her head held high. 1 hour later, a black SUV with tinted windows rolled up to the curb. Her billionaire husband stepped out, adjusting his designer tie with a practiced hand, then strode purposefully toward the boutique's entrance. The morning sun cast a golden glow over Rodeo Drive as Claire Matthews made her way down the iconic Los Angeles shopping district. At 45, she exuded an effortless confidence. Her shoulder-length blonde hair was swept back into a simple ponytail. Her white t-shirt and light gray joggers, paired with minimal makeup, revealed a woman who valued comfort over excess. Even though she had access to all the luxury in the world, today was special. Robert's birthday was just around the corner, and after 15 years of marriage to one of LA's most successful investors, Claire knew that a truly meaningful gift required more than an endless budget. She had found the perfect vintage watch at Elegance, a high-end boutique famous for its carefully selected collection of luxury items. Claire checked her watch. 10:30 a.m. Robert would meet her here at noon before their lunch reservation. That gave her plenty of time to make the purchase and have it wrapped. She paused outside the boutique's gleaming storefront, taking in the artfully displayed pieces in the window. Inside, the soft glow of crystal chandeliers illuminated a scene where impeccably dressed staff attended to equally fashionable clientele. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the heavy glass door, stepping into the cool, air-conditioned interior, where the subtle scent of expensive perfume filled the air. The doorbell chimed softly, but no one immediately acknowledged her presence. Claire walked toward a display case containing vintage watches and jewelry, her eyes locking onto the piece she had researched, a rare 1960s timepiece with a story as rich as its craftsmanship. Robert would appreciate both the artistry and the history behind it. "May I assist you?" a voice asked, breaking the silence. The words were polite, but the tone told another story. Claire turned to face the young woman in a black dress, her hair pulled back into a tight bun, her eyes scanning Claire's casual attire with barely concealed disdain. "Yes, I'm interested in that vintage watch," Claire said, pointing to the item she had come for. The saleswoman raised an eyebrow. "That particular piece is $85,000. Claire nodded calmly. "I'm aware of the price. I'd like to see it, please." The saleswoman hesitated for a moment before offering a suggestion. "Perhaps I could show you something more affordable? We have some lovely costume jewelry that might be more in line with your needs." Claire met the woman's gaze without flinching. "I'd prefer to see the watch I requested. Thank you." With obvious reluctance, the saleswoman retrieved a key from her pocket, unlocking the display case with exaggerated care, as though concerned Claire might snatch the watch and flee. She placed the timepiece on a velvet pad and slid it across the counter, keeping a cautious distance between Claire and the merchandise. "It's a limited edition. Only 5 were ever made," the saleswoman explained, as though this information would deter the woman in workout clothes from pursuing the purchase. Claire examined the watch, appreciating the fine craftsmanship. "It's perfect," she said, already imagining Robert's delight. "I'll take it." The saleswoman's eyebrows shot up. "You'll take it? Perhaps we should discuss financing options." Claire remained unfazed. "That won't be necessary," she replied, her voice calm and composed. From across the store, a sharply dressed man with slicked back hair watched the interaction closely, his eyes narrowing with judgment. Marcus Devlin, the boutique manager, had built Elegance's reputation on its exclusivity. He prided himself on spotting wealth at a glance, and in his assessment, the woman in casual clothing wasn't someone who belonged in his store. Claire felt his gaze but continued her inspection of the watch. After years of marriage to Robert, she was used to being underestimated. Usually it amused her. But today, She simply wanted to buy a meaningful gift before meeting her husband for lunch. Little did she know, this ordinary shopping trip was about to take a turn. Marcus Devlin approached with the practiced smile of someone who had mastered the art of looking pleasant while delivering unpleasant news. His Italian suit and handmade shoes contrasted sharply with Claire's casual appearance. "Is there something I can assist with, Veronica?" he asked, though his eyes remained fixed on Claire. "This customer is interested in the Chronomaster," Veronica replied, emphasizing customer, in a way that made it clear she considered Claire anything but. "I see," Marcus said, turning his full attention to Claire. "Madam, the Chronomaster is one of our most exclusive pieces. Perhaps Veronica could show you something more suitable for casual browsing." Claire met his gaze steadily. "I'm not browsing. I'd like to purchase this watch." Marcus exchanged a silent glance with Veronica. Claire had seen this before. The subtle communication between luxury retail staff when they believed they had spotted someone who didn't belong. "Of course," Marcus said, his tone now patronizing. "However, we do have a policy with our high-value items. I'll need to see some form of verification before proceeding with such a significant purchase." Claire raised an eyebrow. "Verification? A platinum card at the very least, or perhaps evidence of funds?" Marcus continued. "We've had issues with certain individuals wasting our time." His smile was thin and insincere. "I'm sure you understand." A well-dressed couple nearby paused their conversation to observe the interaction, their expressions a mix of curiosity and second-hand embarrassment. "I don't typically carry my cards when I'm dressed for the day's activities," Claire replied smoothly, "but I can assure you the purchase won't be an issue. My husband is meeting me here shortly." "Ah," Marcus interrupted, his voice now laced with condescension. "Your husband?" "Yes," Claire responded, her patience beginning to wear thin. He glanced at Veronica, who couldn't quite hide the smirk that tugged at the corner of her lips. "Perhaps when your husband arrives, we can continue this conversation," Marcus said, his implication clear. He thought she was fabricating the story of a wealthy husband. "The watch is a surprise for him," Claire explained, trying to remain composed. "I'd prefer to complete the purchase before he arrives." Marcus made a show of checking his watch, then sighed dramatically. "I'm afraid, without verification, I can't authorize this transaction. We have other genuine customers waiting." He gestured toward the couple, who quickly feigned disinterest, though it was clear they had been eavesdropping. Another customer entered the boutique, an actress Claire recognized from film posters. Immediately, Marcus's demeanor shifted. "Ms. Reynolds, what an honor!" he exclaimed, moving toward the actress with all the enthusiasm of a sycophant. "Veronica, perhaps you could continue assisting this patron, or direct her to our sales section in the back." Claire watched as Marcus fawned over the actress. The celebrity, clearly uncomfortable with the excessive attention, cast a brief, apologetic glance in Claire's direction. "We don't actually have a sales section," Veronica said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Look, maybe you should come back another time with your husband," she added, the unmistakable skepticism in her words making no attempt to hide her doubt. Claire checked her watch again. Robert would arrive in 30 minutes. She could wait and let him handle the situation, but that would ruin the surprise. Besides, she'd never relied on her husband's name or status to gain basic respect. "I'd still like to purchase the watch," Claire insisted, her voice unwavering. Veronica sighed dramatically, the sound laced with impatience. "I've worked here for 5 years. I know a discount hunter when I see one. You're just wasting everyone's time." The muttered words stung more than Claire cared to admit. Around her, other customers were starting to take notice, their stares a reminder of how quickly a simple shopping trip had turned into an uncomfortable spectacle. All because she'd chosen comfort over couture for her morning attire. Things took a turn for the worse when Marcus returned from escorting the actress to the jewelry section. His expression had hardened, the professional veneer slipping away as he approached Claire. "Madam, I believe we've been more than accommodating," he said, His voice lowered but his tone sharp. "But it's becoming clear you're not a serious buyer." Claire straightened, her posture as composed as ever. "I've been nothing but clear about my intentions to purchase the watch. Yet, you have no means to prove you can actually afford it." His eyes flicked to her simple outfit with open disdain. "We've seen this before. People coming in, handling our merchandise, taking pictures, wasting our time. All for social media posts about a lifestyle they don't actually live." A flush crept up Claire's neck, but it wasn't from embarrassment. It was anger. "I don't need to prove my worth based on my appearance." Marcus's patience snapped. "Enough. I must insist you leave the premises." "Excuse me?" Claire's eyes widened in disbelief. "You heard me," he said, his hand gesturing toward the door with finality. "Either produce verification of funds, or exit my store. We cater to a very specific clientele and you're disrupting our business environment." The few customers who had been quietly browsing had fallen silent, creating an uncomfortable bubble of attention around them. One woman whispered to her companion, both casting judgmental glances in Claire's direction. "This is ridiculous," Claire said, her voice steady despite the rising tide of indignation within her. "I'm a paying customer." "No," Marcus countered, his voice dripping with superiority. "You're not. You haven't paid for anything, nor do I believe you can." He took a step closer, invading her personal space. "Now, I won't ask again. Please leave before I'm forced to call security." Something in his tone, the cold certainty that she didn't belong, made Claire realize that further protest would only make the situation worse. With quiet dignity, she stepped away from the counter. "The way you've treated me speaks volumes about you, not me," she said, her voice soft but firm. Marcus smiled thinly, grabbing her arm in a firm grip. "People like you don't belong here," he said, his voice laced with condescension as he guided her firmly toward the exit. "Perhaps try the department stores downtown." As they reached the door, he released her arm with a small, purposeful push. Not quite enough to be called assault, but enough to make his intentions clear. The glass door swung shut behind her with a sharp click, leaving Claire standing alone on the sidewalk of Rodeo Drive. The California sun felt almost too bright, too exposing. Through the boutique's window, she could see Marcus returning to his staff, making a comment that caused several of them to laugh as they looked in her direction. Claire took a deep breath, steadying herself against the wave of humiliation threatening to overtake her. In 15 years of marriage to Robert, she had encountered her fair share of pretentious people, but rarely had she experienced such blatant disrespect. She checked her watch. 11:40 a.m. Robert would be here in 20 minutes. For a moment, she considered, waiting to explain what had happened, to watch his face when he realized how they treated his wife. Robert's protective instincts were legendary in business circles. He had built his reputation on fairness, but he was merciless when crossed. "Are you all right?" A woman's voice broke through Claire's thoughts. She turned to see the actress who had entered earlier, now stepping out with a small shopping bag in hand. "I saw what happened in there," the actress said, her voice sincere. "It was appalling." Claire managed a small smile. "Thank you for saying so. I'm fine, just surprised by how quickly people make assumptions." The actress nodded sympathetically before her driver ushered her toward a waiting car. Claire decided to walk down the block to clear her head. She wouldn't give Marcus the satisfaction of seeing her standing outside as if she had been put in timeout. Meanwhile, Robert Matthews's day had been relentless, even by billionaire standards. 3 investment meetings before 11 a.m., followed by a conference call with international partners. But thoughts of lunch with Claire had kept him grounded. These rare moments together were precious amidst his chaotic schedule. At 11:45, his driver pulled the black SUV to the curb near Elegance. Robert straightened his blue tie, checking his reflection in the tinted window. At 48, his dark hair showed distinguished touches of gray at the temples, and his well-tailored navy suit accentuated his athletic build, a result of years of pre-dawn workouts. "Wait here, James," he instructed his driver. "We shouldn't be long." Robert approached the boutique, scanning the sidewalk for Claire. Finding no sign of her, he assumed she must still be inside. Perhaps she had found something special for herself, although he knew her preference for simplicity often puzzled those in their social circle. As he reached for the door, a middle-aged woman approached him. "Excuse me, are you Robert Matthews?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Robert nodded, instantly alert. Being recognized in public usually meant investors or journalists. "I just wanted you to know your wife was asked to leave the store," the woman said quietly. "I was inside. The way they treated her was disgraceful. She walked that way," she added, pointing down the street. Robert's expression darkened. "Thank you for telling me," he said, his voice controlled despite the anger flaring within him. The woman nodded and continued on her way. Robert pulled out his phone, tempted to call Claire but decided against it. Instead, he texted his assistant, "Reschedule my 2 p. Something's come up." His assistant's response was immediate. "Done. Everything all right?" "Will be," Robert replied cryptically. He looked through the boutique's windows, observing the opulent interior and the staff's interactions with customers. The manager, easily identifiable by his authoritative stance, was laughing with 2 saleswomen. Something about their body language, the shared smirk, told Robert everything he needed to know. Robert Matthews hadn't built a billion-dollar investment empire by being impulsive. Every move was calculated, consequences mapped out 3 steps ahead. He assessed the situation with the same strategic mind that had made him a legend in financial circles. He could see Claire now, walking slowly back toward the boutique, her posture straight despite the humiliation she had endured. Their eyes met across the distance, and he saw her expression shift from surprise to something more complex, a mixture of love and resignation, as though she already knew what was coming. Claire quickened her pace, catching up to Robert before he could enter the boutique. "I was just taking a walk," she explained, lightly touching his arm. "How was your morning?" Robert studied her face. After 15 years of marriage, he knew the subtle signs of distress that others would miss. "Someone told me what happened in there," he said quietly. Claire sighed. "It's nothing, Robert. Just another case of people making judgments based on appearances." "It's not nothing." His voice remained calm, but there was a controlled intensity in it, the kind that made entire boardrooms fall silent. "No one treats you that way, not even on Rodeo Drive." "Robert," she began, but he was already moving toward the boutique's entrance, his steps deliberate and full of purpose. Inside Elegance, Marcus was recounting the encounter to Veronica and another staff member. "The nerve of some people," he laughed, "coming in here looking like they just left the gym, expecting." The door opened, and their laughter faltered as Robert Matthews entered the store. Even those who didn't immediately recognize the billionaire investor could sense his commanding presence. His tailored suit, his deliberate movements, all of it spoke of wealth and authority that needed no announcement. Marcus rushed forward, his professional smile snapping back into place. "Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to Elegance. How may we assist you today?" Robert surveyed the store with calculated coolness before his gaze locked onto Marcus. "I believe you just ejected my wife from your establishment." The color drained from Marcus's face as Claire stepped in behind Robert. The staff froze, recognition and horror dawning all at once. Robert Matthews, Claire Matthews, the billionaire power couple, known for their philanthropy and business acumen. "Mr. Matthews," Marcus stammered. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding." "Has there?" Robert's voice remained even, devoid of any emotion. "From what I understand, you judged my wife solely on her appearance, refused to sell her merchandise, and then physically escorted her from the premises while making derogatory comments." The other customers in the store stopped browsing, their attention fully captured by the unfolding drama. Veronica's eyes dropped to the floor, suddenly fascinated by her shoes. "Sir, if I had any idea who Mrs. Matthews was," Robert raised, his hand, silencing him. That's precisely the problem. You shouldn't need to know who someone is to treat them with basic dignity and respect. He turned to Claire. Was this the watch you were trying to purchase? Claire nodded, pointing to the vintage timepiece still resting on the velvet display pad. Excellent choice, Robert said warmly, then turned back to Marcus, his expression colder now. I'd like to speak with the owner of this establishment. Marcus swallowed hard. Mr. Goldstein is in New York this week, but I'm the general manager. I have full authority to... Perfect, Robert interrupted. Then you have full authority to explain to Mr. Goldstein why Elegance is about to face a very public relations nightmare and why your most exclusive pieces are about to be sold somewhere else. The statement hung in the air, its implications clear to everyone present. Robert Matthews wasn't just a billionaire. His investment firm held significant stakes in several luxury retail groups, and his influence extended throughout the industry. Please, Mr. Matthews, Marcus pleaded, desperation beginning to edge into his voice, replacing his earlier arrogance. There must be something we can do to rectify this situation. Actually, Robert said, his tone shifting to something almost conversational as he placed an arm around Claire's shoulders. There is. But first, I'd like you to apologize to my wife. Not because she's my wife, but because she deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of who she is or what she's wearing. Marcus turned to Claire, his earlier disdain replaced by naked fear. Mrs. Matthews, I cannot begin to express my regret for my inexcusable behavior. As Marcus finished his stilted apology, Robert nodded curtly. Now, about those consequences, he said, reaching into his jacket and pulling out a business card. My office will be in touch regarding your employment status. Marcus blinked in confusion. My employment? Did I forget to mention? Robert's smile was devoid of warmth. My investment group acquired a controlling interest in Goldstein Luxury Retail last month. The paperwork finalizes today. Technically, I'm your boss now. A collective gasp rippled through the store. Veronica's hand flew to her mouth while Marcus swayed slightly, steadying himself against the counter. But rather than simply firing you, Robert continued, I have something more constructive in mind. Elegance will be launching a new program next month. Sensitivity training for all employees, taught by experts in unconscious bias and equitable customer service. He turned to Claire, whose expression had softened slightly. And my wife has graciously agreed to oversee the program development. Claire hadn't agreed to any such thing, but she understood Robert's strategy. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about meaningful change. She nodded, playing along. Your alternative, Robert added, turning back to Marcus, is immediate resignation. Marcus looked between them, humiliation battling with self-preservation. I would appreciate the opportunity to learn and improve, sir. Robert checked his watch. Excellent. Training begins next week. Now, if you'll complete my wife's original purchase, we have a lunch reservation to keep. With trembling hands, Marcus processed the transaction for the vintage watch. The same hands that had pushed Claire out the door now carefully wrapped her purchase in premium packaging. The store's earlier hostility was replaced with mortified deference. As the couple left Elegance, whispers erupted behind them. The story would spread through Rodeo Drive before evening, a cautionary tale about judging people by their appearances. Over lunch at their favorite restaurant, Claire and Robert enjoyed a quiet moment of vindication. Was that strictly necessary? She asked with a small smile. Robert took her hand across the table. Absolutely, he replied. Not because you're my wife, but because nobody deserves that treatment. Indeed, Claire said, nodding. The most valuable things in life aren't displayed in shop windows. Character, kindness, and dignity can be found beneath the simplest appearances. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful moments of justice and human connection. We'd love to hear where you're watching from in the comments below. Remember, in a world quick to judge by appearances, your kindness could be the exception someone needs today. The most valuable possession is a compassionate spirit, something no luxury boutique can sell. Until next time, keep believing in the power of dignity.